Hello. That was so not graceful. Welcome to episode 1, if I can get this chair to move, of Tour Talks. So I was just chilling, hang out by myself because here I am in this big empty hotel room all by myself, and I was thinking that I could start a new series where I talk about life on tour while I'm on tour. If this becomes an exciting series and it picks up, I will probably be able to do more of this since I plan to keep playing on tour. So yeah, it would be fun. I feel like there's a lot of things that I could talk about, and maybe I could even talk with my friends on tour and things like that. So if this is something you guys like to see, give it a thumbs up, and let's get started with episode 1, which is going to be about tour status. So I kind of mentioned this a little bit in one of my previous videos where I talked about status on tour and like what it kind of means to be a member of a tour and how you get into tournaments. So I didn't talk much detail into it, but I did ask you guys if that's something you'd be interested in finding out about, because I feel like it's not something that everybody knows. So I figured that would be a great first episode just to talk about how you actually get into professional golf tournaments. And yeah, so let's get right into it. Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know, I have played in many different tours all around the world since I turned pro. Currently, I'm here in Taiwan. I'm a member of the Taiwan LPGA. I'm also a member of the China LPGA. I just came in from Australia, which is part of the WPGA, or it's a Women's Professional Golf Association of Australasia, I think, if that's the full name. I'm not sure. It's called the WPGA. There is also the LET, of course you guys know, Ladies European Tour, Thai LPGA, and at home in Malaysia we have something called the Toyota Tour, as well as the LET Access Series, which is also part of the LET. So, and also the Sunshine Tour, which is the tour in South Africa. So as you guys can see, I'm a part of a lot of different tours. So first, let's get started on how you get membership into a tour. So basically, anybody who enters Q School, for most of the Q schools, I wouldn't say it's all of the Q schools, but for most of the Q schools, if you enter qualifying school, you will have the option to pay for a membership for the tour. So paying for a membership of the tour does not mean that you're going to get into tournaments on the tour. Getting into tournaments on the tour depends on how you finish, will depend on how you finish at Q School. So let's say there's a qualifying school for, let's say, Taiwan. So Taiwan's one is very simple. It's top 30 gets cards. So, and it's for that year. So if you go to qualifying school in 2023 and you finish in the top 30, you're gonna get a card for 2024. So the way it works is that changes based on the tour, of course. Different tours have different regulations, a different amount of people get through. But for Taiwan, I'll start with Taiwan because I feel like it's the most simple. Taiwan and China have pretty much the same concept. It's top 30, and even if there's 100 people playing, even if there's 31 people playing, if there's 100 people playing, if there's 300 people playing, most of the time, so far it's not changed, it's going to be top 30. So top 30 gets status for 2024. And if you finish 32nd, you most likely will not get, you won't get full status. You might get into tournaments maybe like in the middle of the year when people are not so interested in playing, let's say, like 5 events in a row, or people like myself who have memberships on other tours might decide to go play like other tournaments elsewhere. And so then the field size might open up a little bit where maybe the 31, 32, 33 may get slots. I'll explain a bit later why it's not confirmed that you will get slots even though you finish like one position off. But yeah, so let's say there's 200 people playing Q School and top 30 gets their cards. Even the 199 player can technically just pay for a membership of the tour and become a member of the tour. So that's why I said just because you pay for membership of a tour does not mean that you are technically a player on the tour. You are just a member of the tour, because yeah, sure, you can say you're a player of the tour, but in my opinion, you can only technically say that you play on a tour if you play in the tournaments on the tour. If you finish 199 out of 200 people in Q School, you're not going to get into any tournaments that year. But it's your choice whether you want to pay for membership of the tour. There are some tours where there are several privileges to being a member of the tour. For instance, on the LPGA and LET, if you're a member of the tour, you might get some perks of discounts of golf clubs. Certain brands might work with the tour to give you discounts, or Whoop, the wearable fitness device that I wear. You can get membership, things like that. So there are some benefits, and that's maybe why some people want to pay for a membership. But the membership for a tour is not cheap. So most of the time, I would feel like if you do not finish a certain position in Q School, you would not pay for membership. Okay, so another thing to explain is, now that we've kind of talked about Q School for most of the Asian tours, that's how it works. For the LET and the LPGA, it kind of works a little bit differently, but I think the overall idea is there. I'm gonna kind of dive into tournament entries and how it works, and why I was talking about just now, if you're 31 in Q School, you might still not get a slot. So again, I'm gonna take Taiwan as an example because it's easier and I'm here, so it's easier for me to explain it. So when you enter a tournament, there's gonna be different categories that you're in. So the first few categories, which is, let's say it goes by alphabets, category A, it could be the winner of the 2023 Order of Merit for the Taiwan LPGA. And then category B could be all the winners of 2023 events. So any event on the Taiwan LPGA, if you won, you might be in category B. It's not exactly it's not the exact category. I'm just giving you examples of what certain categories could be. So, and then category C could be top 60 from 2023's Order of Merit. So it's going to be if you're position 1 to 60, well, technically 2 to 60, then you are going to be considered in category C. But again, take into account, if you are in category, if you won, which most likely if you're in the top 60, you most probably did win the tournament last year, or you would be one of the players that have won a tournament, then you would be in category B. So then the category C wouldn't be 60 players. But yeah, so it kind of would mishmash a little bit. Obviously, you would just get slotted into the higher category. But so for instance, in Taiwan, so like I said, of course, it's going to be Order of Merit winners, tournament winners, things like that. But just in general, if you look at it simply put, to keep your card, you would need to be in the top 60. So that's to be safe. So let's say we say 1 to 60 is going to be in category A, B, C, D, whatever, because like I said, most of them are going to intertwine. So let's say there's 60 players already to enter a tournament. In Taiwan, there's only 108 players per tournament. Sorry, 102 players per tournament. And the reason why is because here in Taiwan, they only have a morning session. They don't have an afternoon session like most other tours do. And because of that, they can only fit in 102 players, that's the maximum. So you do get a much smaller field here. And that's why Q School and finishing certain positions in Order Merit becomes much more important, because the chances of you getting in is even less because of the amount of people that get into each tournament. So okay, let's say 1 to 60 already gets a slot, and there's 102 slots. So after that, it's going to be the top 30 from Q School. So it's going to be 1 to 60, 1 to 30. So technically, there's already 90 players. And then it's going to be 61 to 80 from the previous year. So that's basically going to fill up the field. And then it will be 31 to 40 probably from Q School. And this is why I said, if you are finishing in position 35, even though you might think oh, I'm only 5 spots off the qualifying school, qualification, the top 30, you could be in a whole other category below. So that's why things like Q School is super important. And in Taiwan, they don't even have ties. So you could be technically, there could be 10 people finishing at even par, which is the 30th position. And you could be 30, 31, 32 until 40, and there's no tie. So it's going to go based off a certain criteria for score. So the person that finished 30th at Q School and the person that finished 40th at Q School could be at the same score, but because of of the comeback, you could be an entire category below and basically not even get a single tournament. So yeah, that's why Q School is very, very tough. And like I said, this is a simpler Q school because it is Taiwan, China, and Thailand pretty much works that way, where you kind of have a certain amount of people and that is basically it. Like I said, you do have a slight chance that you might get into the tournament if you finish like 31 to 40, but past that, I think there's really no chance. It would be very, very difficult for you to get into a tournament. On the LET and stuff, on the LPGA as well, it's a little bit different because they have different categories. So for instance, because also like I said, the size of the playing field here is only 102, whereas for instance on the LET it's like 132. So that's 30 more slots. So that could be positioned, let's say it's 30 people on the LET, it could be positioned 31 to 50. So you can see how that would change Q school, because like you could finish 40th and still get into tournaments on the LET, whereas in Taiwan you would not get into a single tournament. So yeah, it changes based on Q school, and it's not based on the amount of people, because I would say that it is equally as competitive here in Asia. If you guys don't know, there's a lot of women golfers here in Asia as well. So all the Q schools nowadays are filling up like crazy, and there's a lot of golfers nowadays. A lot of people want to play professional golf, and I feel like it's also a kind of a spillover after COVID, how some people couldn't like go to Q school for like 2 years for COVID, and then it kind of just spilled over. And then yeah, so that is kind of a simplified version of the tournament categories and how you get into tournaments. But in addition to that, like I said, it's not as simple as that. There's also, of course, going to be things like invite slots. So sometimes that takes up slots for people on the order of merit or ranking system, you would think, because sometimes invite slots are ranked in a higher category than, let's say, the Q school category. Like I said, I'm kind of making this up. I don't know the actual categories, but I know it's somewhat along those lines. But yeah, so it's always up to the discretion of the committee. They could say like, oh, I want this player to play, and that player could have finished 40th in Q school but get an invite slot, and the 31 player could not get it, but the 40th player could get it based on an invite slot. So yeah, it's never as simple as like ABCD that this is it, but it does make it pretty clear when you see like, okay, top 30 gets it. If you finish in top 60 in the order of merit last year, you'll be pretty safe, things like that. So that's a pretty easy way to kind of think about how you get into tournaments. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is membership on tours, and why the difference between playing on one tour and playing on multiple different tours. Like I said, I'm a member of quite a lot of tours around the world. And of course, ideally, I would just like to be a member of one tour that's big enough that I would have a playing calendar for a full year. For instance, if you're playing on the LPGA, you don't need to be a member of any other tours, although most LPGA players that are European, or not only that are European, but there are quite a few LPGA players that also hold memberships on the LET. So there are a lot of people that end up having more than one membership, but certain things that comes to membership is, for instance, cost. So being a member of a tour costs money. You have to pay for a membership every single year. That membership money is supposed to go into the tour and developing the tour, and goes into our prize fund, etc., etc. I don't know how it works, but you do have a player membership each year for a tour. So again, like I said previously, just because you pay for membership doesn't mean that you are playing on a tour. So for instance, let's say somebody last year in the 2023 order of merit finished 120th on the order of merit. It's going to be very difficult for that 120 player to get into any tournaments in 2024 unless they went back to Q school. So if they didn't go back to Q school, chances are they're not going to get into any tournaments in 2024. But because they were a member in 2023, they will still be given the option to pay for membership in 2024. And you can keep on doing that, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get into it in tournaments. It just means that you maintain a member of the tour. So certain things that could come into account with that is, as a member of the tour, if there's an election, you could be considered to you could give your vote. So that's one of the things of being a member of a tour. It varies based on the tour as well. But yeah, so one of the things, like I said, you have to pay for membership. So being a member of a lot of tours, that's one of the things that sucks, because you don't just pay for one membership, you pay for 8 memberships. But the thing is, if you pay for all these memberships and you get something out of it, then I feel like it's worth it. of course I don't mean something out of it as if like a discount, but I mean like, for instance, let's say I play so you have to pay the membership to be included in the order of merit. Let me just say that first. So let's say I go and play let's say I play in a tournament and I play well enough and I don't pay for membership. Even if you win, if you win most of the time, you're given the option to join as a member of the tour. But let's say you finish third, which is usually a pretty good position and it's gonna jump you pretty high up the order of merit. You still, if you're not a member of the tour, you can't pay for membership after, and then you're not going to be able to be on the order of merit, which then would kind of defeat the purpose of you playing in the tournament on that tour anyway, because if you don't want to be a part of the order of merit, which is going to give you a card for next year, then what's the point of playing? So yeah, so it of course it changes based on many different factors, but like I said, like so for me, let's just go back to me. So why do I have so many memberships on so many tours, and what kind of like is the reasoning behind that? So like you guys know, I played on the LET. The LET has many co-sanctioned events with many tours around the world. It's pretty much a global tour, right? So for instance, when the LET goes to South Africa, the tour is co-sanctioned with the Sunshine Tour, which is what I played last year. So if I play the tournaments on the Sunshine Tour, which is co-sanctioned with the LET, and as a member of the LET, if I play well in those events, I will get my LET ranking as well. So does that kind of make sense? So if I pay for membership on the Sunshine and the LET and play a tournament that's co-sanctioned, I get points on both tours. So that's why, for me, obviously, I'm not just paying all these membership fees for fun. Like, it's not cheap. And so yeah, there's a lot of things that goes into it. Also, like, don't forget, the more tours that you play, you also most of the time have a minimum amount of events that you need to play to keep your card. So for instance, let's say you play in Taiwan, you might need to play 6 events to keep your card. So let's say you're a member of 8 tours and every tour has to play 6 events minimum. Like, there's no way you can keep all those tour cards. So you need to kind of know what's the minimum amount that you need to keep, and make sure that you're able to play on tours that you can keep the card on, because there's no point paying for membership. Like I said, it's a big amount of money, and then you play well, but then you don't play the minimum amount, and therefore you still aren't able to keep your card for next year. So yeah, there's a lot of things to consider. For me, I started off playing here in Taiwan and China. So I think I explained this as well before. They obviously were not running the tour for quite a period of time during COVID. So I already had tour cards for China and Taiwan before COVID. And then after COVID, I had my tour card for the LET. So if I had a full card on the LET, I probably wouldn't have played in both Taiwan and China. Like that's why last year I was playing like over 30 tournaments, which is a lot of tournaments. It's every other week I'm playing a tournament. It's because I have to play a certain amount of number of tournaments to keep those cards. So, and that's why. And of course, if it's so easy, like if you play 6 events and you play 6 events well enough to be in the top 60, then yeah, great. You can just play 6 events and then go and play on the other tours and focus on the other tours. But of course, we know it's not as easy as that. You know, you're not going to always perform the way you want to every single week. So you might have to play 10 tournaments. Even though the requirement is 6, you might have to play 10 to get into the top 60. So yeah, you have to know how to like kind of balance it out and know like what's your priority, what's your main tour that you want to keep your card on, and then kind of have the other tours kind of as a, not like a backup, but I mean, you never know. It's golf, you know? If you only have one tour and you're not able to keep your card for that tour, and then you could go to Q School, which is 1 week in a year, and have a bad week and have entirely 0 status for the next year. So that's the difficult thing, especially also because like I'm from Malaysia. Like the tour in Malaysia is not enough to sustain me as a professional golfer. If I only played professional golf in Malaysia, like I would end up teaching, because there's no way I can make money playing the amount of tournaments that we have. Like it's not sustainable. So I don't have the privilege of having a tour at home which I can like fall back on. So like for instance, if you're Taiwanese, you can always go play in the LET, and then if you lose your card, you come back and play in Taiwan. For me, like I don't have that privilege, so I need to know where I'm put my cards in the right spots and try to focus on the spot that I want to focus on, but make sure that I have other things, because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is play professional golf. And there's many routes to take you there, you know? Yes, of course, I'm trying to like, for instance, if you want to get your world ranking down, that's one of the things that you need to do. You need to play tournaments, and different tournaments hold different ranking points. But, you know, at the end of the day, like if you play well, it's still going to give you ranking points, whether you play in Taiwan, whether you play in China, whether you play in Europe, whether you play in the US. It's just different points based on different tours and different tournaments, but there's many ways to do it. So yeah, I think this video is already like 20 minutes long. So I think that kind of covers it. I hope that was a little bit informative. I hope that I did not talk your ear off and you guys kind of understood what I was talking about. And I hope that you can hear me. I think you can, because there's nobody in this room, so I'm talking pretty loudly, and there's also, I'm like the furthest room away from everybody, so I'm pretty sure nobody can hear me anyway. But if somebody can, then my bad. And if you guys enjoyed this video and this kind of style of video where I'm just kind of chit-chatting, yeah, let me know if there's certain topics that you would like me to talk about, and I will catch you in the next one. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.